Hey, can you get in my pack? I need some more Zynbabwe's, some more zingies, just main pack, main zipper.
I mean, it's right there, but sure, yeah, got it for you.
It's just it's just the main one. Yep.
Perfect, got it. Dude, are you serious?
What?
We're only gonna be out here a day.
Dude, stuff happens all the time. We could be stuck out here for a week. We don't actually know.
Did you even leave enough room for food and water?
Nah, we're only gonna be out here for like a day.
Wow. Well, I did bring some extra food, so if you need some, I guess let me know.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. But honestly, I haven't had an appetite like all day. What's up, guys? Today we're going to walk you through our sustainment packs and our fighting loadouts because quite frankly they've evolved a lot over the years and we are very happy with where they're at right now and just wanted to share it with you guys.
Now very clearly we are out here doing some serious LARPing.
Yeah, big LARP guys.
Now LARPing has become a derogatory term, just like dirty civilian used to be, but really LARPing is a professional thing to do as well. It is really the same thing as a rehearsal, a full mission profile, running through and practicing what it is you're actually going to do when you're on the X. You set a goal, you come up with your mission essential equipment, you pack that gear, and you run rehearsals before you ever actually have to do it in real life. Now, LARPing is still viewed as a negative for civilians, but it is important to remember to come up with a goal, put your gear on, be flexible because the weather changes. We were gonna film this video when it was, like 7 degrees Fahrenheit here in Tennessee.
That would've been fun.
Today, it's more like high 50s. So we've had to be flexible with some of that, and that forces us to become proficient with these things. And the more that you do it, the more you become comfortable packing and repacking your gear. The more comfortable you are in your kit in different kinds of weather. And the more that we've done those kinds of things, it has forced us to change not just our tools, but our mindset and thinking as well.
So today our LARPing mission was we were just going to come out here and set up camp, walk a mile or two with all of our kits, nothing major, nothing like super complicated, and find a good site to set up a shelter. Take about an hour and a half, 2 hours to build up something a little bit more than just Ranger Diamonds. So with that being said, let's show you what we packed with us for 2 to 3 days out in the field, and also talk about LARPing as we go. Now there's a difference between hiking and camping and LARPing. Whenever you LARP, you have to go all out. You know, the kit, the guns, the nods, everything that you've got, whatever it is, however big or small, those are the rules. You got to go all out. So for the rifle, I've been playing around a lot with this Zev 16-inch rifle. I've got a Griffin can on it, got the new CTF3 laser and IR device, which I've been playing around with and have been super pleased with. We'll probably do a video on that in the future. Also Harris bipod, Difrico grip. Difrico grip in the back, and by the way, they are sponsors for, you know, this channel, so big thanks to those guys. And this thermal unit, which, you know, I was like, you know, if we're going to be out in the woods where, you know, we're looking for heat signatures, I want to run a thermal. I don't want to be out here in the dark without a thermal. And so this is a very, very inexpensive, like $800 AGM that we bought off Amazon, and it's been pretty good for a budget one. Also a Delta Point Pro on an offset mount. And that pretty much explains the gun. Now the kit, in my opinion, this is what I'm the most excited about. So split rigs have really come into popularity once again. They used to be popular back in the day. There's a good reason for them, which is the more we tend to do long range stuff and the more prone we find ourselves, having a split rig that just kind of like deletes this area in terms of kit really helps you feel more comfortable and get closer to the ground. Also, I can just pop them and splay that open, so if I'm laying on the ground shooting prone, it's not a problem. Also, I can don and doff this super easily, and it throws on very well over armor, which is great. That being said, this is from Spiritus. I think it's the 34 Alpha split rig, and I've got 8 mags, 4 out here on the outside, 4 on the inside. I've also got a Justa pouch over here for radio and some land nav stuff. Got a compass and some maps and things like that, writing tools, writing utensils. Also over here on this side, we've got an extra canteen of water, which is great. I like to have water on me. A little spot for a multi-tool and Kestrel in the back, so whenever we come out here, we can actually, you know, we can pull wind if we have to. You know, again, I said, it's LARPing. You got to go all out. In every single video, you guys ask what kind of clothes we're wearing. I get it. we love to make fun of it, but let's just go right into it. Running these ECC gloves. I know these gloves have got a ton of hate because of how expensive they are. Hey, you know what? We do this as our job. So if we get to spend a little bit more money than honestly you should on products to figure out whether or not they're worth it, that's why we do it. So in my experience, these have been pretty great so far. They keep the blisters away. I can grab a hot suppressor and it's not too bad. So I've been pretty happy with these so far. But again, I usually run like $20 mechanics and they've been fine too. Perseverance Survival will be top. Love those guys. I've been buying whoobies from them for years. You can never have enough of them. They're great to just stow in a pack. And got some Norarm pants, which are a little bit thicker than normal Cries. So I have been super comfy all day long. Not too much sweat, not too cold either. So it's been great. Let's get into the pack. All right, so I like to use pack scrim. It's just nice if you're trying to camouflage your gear, and it also kind of like acts as like a netting to pull stuff in closer. This is from 100 Concepts. We've used these a lot. They're pretty handy. I did not opt. Lately, I've been getting away from the inflatable mattresses. Whenever it's very, very cold outside, I love those because it's an extra layer of warm air between you and the earth. But lately, I've just been going back to the good old fancy, accordion style bedroll. I've chopped this down to, so it's not too long for me. So I've basically cut it in half, given how short I am, and trim the sides off so it, because I'm also not super fat, so I don't need a bunch of stuff on the sides. This is a pack I keep going back to. I get new Eberly stock packs, I get other people's packs, and I like to test out a bunch of different backpacks. However, that's a lot of packs in one paragraph. But I keep on going back to this, the Fact Track, and mainly because there's enough MOLLE on the side I can add things. For example, this right here, I usually have a dry bag that actually hooks onto the MOLLE, but today I opted for this little tiny loop-holed dry bag, which I've used quite a bit. It's got some extra undies, extra socks, and doubles as a pillow, which is great. If you guys aren't using your dry bags as pillows, you're missing out. I brought a lot of water because it's one thing I don't want to hunt for. So brought a Grail, that way if I do find water and we are running low, I can go and get some and just filter it all in one go. It's been great. I've also used it to cook in. Actually made some ramen before we started filming, and it was great. Love the Grail. Over here on this side, extra Nalgene full of water with all of the Cane of Provisions Nalgene information on there. We just restocked our website depending on when you're watching this, so we have a bunch of these decals that are pretty handy, especially if you think you might need to have to purify or treat your water. Also, don't go anywhere in the woods without one of these. This is like a Corona razor tooth saw. Absolute game changer in the woods, especially if you're trying to build some shelters. We've used this a ton over the past year. So I did bring a pretty significant fixed blade because when it comes to like splitting smaller logs or even just whittling stuff down, a nice fixed blade comes in very, very handy. I love this thing, and it is an absolute tank of a blade. Now, if you watch our channel very regularly, you've probably seen this rig, this apparatus that I'm getting ready to pop off here. So I just thread this through the backpack straps, shoulder straps, and if I need to just like leave the bag at camp and just take something small that can stuff a Nalgene, has extra medical and a dump pouch, it's good to go. This is just a fanny pack from AWS with some Coyote tactical attachments here on the side and tourniquets. Absolutely love this thing. On the exterior here, which is things that I would like to be able to grab easily, and in the dark, I've got iPro. Being out in the woods with iPro, please don't forget this stuff at home because it's so easy to put your eye out or a limb to smack you in the eye. It absolutely sucks. So I never go into the woods anymore without some form of iPro. One extra Chemi. I don't need a lot of chem lights because I have tons of lights on me, including a really old school Petzl Arctic or Actic headlamp. I have a small fire starting kit. This has a ferrocerium rod as well as a little char cloth container in here with some extra fire plugs and an extra lighter. Just makes starting a fire a lot easier, but also just carry a lighter in my pocket. So don't make things harder than they have to be, but it is good to have a backup. These, by the way, are Magpul Dakas. You can never have enough of these. I absolutely love them. This one has an extra battery bank for phones, radios, you name it, and it's just nice and small. I just carry one. We're only going to be out here a couple days. It's more than enough. Probably won't even bust it out. And then finally, a nice little boo-boo kit. This is You know, something that's often overlooked whenever you go out into the field, like everyone wants to bring like an IFAK, but just having like Band-Aids and like Neosporin and just like normal stuff like that goes a really long way, because you get scraped up and cut up out here, and by the end of 3 or 4 days, it's kind of miserable. So this has extra stuff like Excedrin migraine, toothbrush, toothpaste. Also got extra dude wipes in here just in case you get the Hershey squirts when you're out in the field and it is just not a good day and you really just need to do some maintenance on yourself. In the lower compartment, I just keep a nice little e-tool. We didn't know for sure exactly where we were going to set up camp. I'm glad we did what we did. But having an e-tool to dig out a position or flatten out and level out the ground that you're going to be sleeping on is very handy. Did not use this today, but it's been something that I've been carrying a lot lately. In the top section, I just keep a poncho. It's already got the 550 cord rigged up to the corner, so I could set up a really hasty campsite, basically just a Ranger Diamond. But this also doubles as rain gear, which the weather changes here in Tennessee all the time. It could absolutely rain, so never leave home without it when I'm out in the field. Also, just a simple beanie, because even though my body stays plenty warm at night, having something on your head it's just nice and comfy. So one thing that you don't see from in here, because we just used it to build that shelter, is a 10-foot line kit of 550 paracord, the green stuff, so you can't see it. But I also keep a small like 5-foot line kit, and this is just daisy chained together, of a bright high-vis orange. And the reason for this is we were out at a class one time, and I'd never seen anybody do this before, and this one older gentleman who's an absolute baller was trying to demonstrate how to, like, different methods of signaling for help, right? Like, let's say you are out and you can't, you know, something happens, right? Well, if you use orange line kit to string between trees, say from your shelter to a trailhead or to an area where a trail opens up or a road, well, that's a great way to signal to someone where you're at. They can see that initial orange line and follow the orange lines back to your camp. So I always keep this just in case. It's kind of like a little emergency communication device, if you want to think about it like that. All right, so for the interior, why did we reset that? All right, so for the interior, this is another reason why I love the Fact Track, because it opens up on the front side like this. So whenever I'm in my shelter, I can just prop this up and work through everything on the front. I don't just have to pull from the top up here. But I do have an extra Nalgene. Did bring my nods, not to flex on the trees and the deer and the critters out here, but because I like to be able to walk around at night. It's as simple as that. I like to be able to observe and be able to move around in the middle of the darkness, no problem. I have started to bring my Ops Core headbands. So one of the main reasons why I do this is because I don't always want to be wearing a helmet. I do like the helmet. I do like being able to have protection on my head. In my opinion, it's actually probably more important than a plate carrier. And obviously if I'm running nods, well, hey, it's very helpful to have a helmet to attach them to. But for all the times during the day when if I'm not doing that and don't want to walk around with a helmet all the time, I can just plug my amps into this. And then finally, food. So I just keep all of my food in one little pack like this, so it's pretty easy and organized. And we're only out here for 2 days, okay? So I packed enough food to be relatively comfortable for 2 days. I could stretch it to 3. I could probably stretch it to 4. I would certainly be hungry by the time I went home, but a little bit of hunger is not going to kill you. In fact, it's probably a good thing to get used to whenever you're out in the field. I always keep at least one MRE in here, and then a couple of other things, an extra little thing of fuel, and an MSR pocket rocket, which I used earlier today when we were out here just cooking up some ramen. So little tiny thing, super small, super easy, lightweight, and then some snacks like pepperoni packs and like a energy bar. Now over here in these side pockets, those are nice for like stuffing little things into. So this is just a Magpul Daka with a bunch of different hydration type tools, right? So I've got a can of provisions, a water decon kit in there, as well as some electrolytes and just aqua tabs, aquamira, things to purify or treat water. Don't ever plan on having to bust this out, but I do have it if I need it, and it takes up no space and it's super lightweight. And then getting down into the sleep system, I ditched the heavier weight, heavier duty military style bivy sack and just went with this Outdoor Research helium bivy. This is actually kind of pricey. It's kind of expensive. I got this as a gift for Christmas, and so I just want to bring it out, test it out, see how it does. So far I've been pretty impressed with it, and it's great because it also kind of acts as a shelter. So even if we didn't want to waterproof our shelter, I could pop this up underneath it and be totally fine even in a downpour. And finally, the sleeping bag in a compression sack. This is a Sea to Summit compression sack. I've used this for the better part of 15 years. The sleeping bag inside is an old Nemo sleeping bag. It's rated down to about 15 degrees. It doesn't mean you'll be comfortable at 15 degrees, but it does mean you won't die. And I can say I've used this sleeping bag in 0 degrees at night and have still been pretty comfortable. So a good sleeping bag goes a really long way. So nothing too fancy outside of like the nods or whatever. Honestly, the most important thing for me was to bring enough water. So I brought about 120 ounces out here. I knew that would be fine for at least a couple of days. And if I had to source a little bit more, I could. But I could live off 120 ounces. Like, it's not a problem. So with that being said, let's go check out Josh's pack. This is a little bit different than mine.
Think back to the last time you heard about a data breach. For me, it was the National Public Data Breach, the one that exposed over 2.9 billion records. I remember scrolling through the news and seeing the words social security numbers, addresses, and phone numbers listed as compromised. What went through your mind as you processed that news? What steps did you take to respond? Well, don't panic. There are steps that you can take to prevent things like this from happening to you. Change your passwords, sign up for credit monitoring, and use VPNs. And that's why we're excited to talk about Aura, the sponsor of today's video. See, Aura goes beyond basic monitoring. They actively scan billions of data points, including the dark web and court records, to alert you if your social security number, address, or other sensitive information is at risk. And here's what really sold me. Every adult on your account gets $1 million in identity theft insurance. That's up to $5 million a family. Think about it. With Aura, it's not just about knowing your data is safe. It's about knowing you're prepared if the worst happens. And with features like their password manager, antivirus, and military-grade VPN, Aura keeps you covered on all fronts. So if you're ready to take your security seriously, use our link below or go to aura.com/dirtycivilian for a 2-week free trial. Or scan the QR code on your screen. Protect what matters most, your identity. Because once it's compromised, there's no going back. And Aura's got your back. So why not start today?
All right, guys, let me try to fly through this for you. So I have some essential equipment on body, which is really just my EDC when I'm out in the woods. I have some protein, some beef jerky, and then a well-used and then restocked Cane of Provisions water decon kit. Good to have on body. Then, of course, I have a knife, Northwest Blade Works. Go bug him about making more knives. Mod Light handheld, my phone, my wallet, obviously some of those general items. And then my rifle. I've been moving more towards the mid-range to long-range interest. And out here, there's not a whole ton of long range that we can actually get, but even still, this has become one of my preferred builds, a Loophole 2.5 to 10 with their new reticle in there. Top mounted dot, huge fan of top mounted dots. So there's the Delta Point Pro. And then an RH25 on a Wilcox flip to side as well. So I have thermal, but it doesn't have to be fixed there the entire time. Laser, Mod Light OKW, Surefire suppressor. That's a really good rifle built on ripcord components. The chest rig is one that I have shown on a fair amount of content already. This one is it Mayflower or Velocity Systems? You guys in the comment section can actually tell us exactly what it is. So I have my radio over here on this side. I have 2 chem lights and a Sharpie. I have my outdoor research gloves attached. I have 4 rifle mags. And then I have an additional 2 20 rounders, just because if I am shooting in the prone, it's really nice to be able to have 20 rounders, not 30 rounders. A tourniquet, a Kestrel, an extra pistol mag, obviously to go along with having a Glock 34 and then an extra pistol mag on this side. It's nice to be able to replace if I have to. I have a bit set as well as some CLP, and that bit set can go to the multi-tool that I have here. And finally, I have a monocular rangefinder from Loophole. It fits really snug in here, but it does fit. So I at least have a way to range find quickly, and if I don't want to point a rifle at it, I can see something a ways away. Then on the inside of the zipper, I have face paint, a lighter, another water filtration system, or at least the water decon kit, batteries, a bunch of other really good tools. I have a notebook and pen and paper, so this at least would be designated for like the fighting part of the LARP. And then of course I have a helmet. This one is from Protection Group Denmark, 100 Concept Scrim, and then OpsCore ears. If you guys are thinking about getting the OpsCore ears, the ears themselves are fantastic. I can't stand the arms. That's just me. They pop off and they are prone to breaking, but the ears I really do like. There's my lowdown on those parts. Now, let's get into the pack itself. So, I as well am running a Everly Stock Fact Track. I've had this for, I was thinking about this earlier, about 5 years, and it is a perfect size, mostly because I love to overpack, and this forces me to pack just what I need. If it is snowing outside and I'm trying to add more layers, or if it's cold, it can get a little bit small, but for 3 seasons out of the year, this thing is my go-to. So starting on the front here, I have my fire starter kit, all just inside of a small Pelican case. You can get those off Amazon. And then I also have a large scrim. I could use this to cover myself if I'm trying to hide. I could use it to host a bunch of other like trash that we're using if I'm trying to insulate myself, and honestly kind of make a blanket out of something like this. And then of course, like Drew mentioned, some dude wipes. I definitely have more than I need for a couple days. Quick access would be medical. If I want to just throw this on around my waist, having a fanny pack for medical has become a go-to for a lot of people, myself included.
Better tell everybody which one that is.
That one's from Spiritus Systems. Everyone wants to know. And then Drew seems like made his own, and I'm sure you don't have to go spend a whole ton of money on field kits for anti-diarrheal, or if you got a migraine or a boo-boo or whatever else, but I actually got these from Cana Provisions. He started carrying these as well. So I have ibuprofen, Tylenol, oral pain relief, sting relief, a whole burn cream. It's a long list of stuff, 2 different kinds of packets depending on what you may actually end up with. If you're building a shelter, either an axe or a hatchet. This one was made for me by Northwest Blade Works as well. These hatchets I love. Do me a favor and him a favor. Send him an email and tell him that you want some of these hatchets because it's the perfect size. I love these. And then over on the top, I also have an e-tool. If you do need to dig a fighting position, or honestly, you need to go to the bathroom and you want to dig a little bit of a hole so your buddies don't step in it, that's good to have also. And then over on this side, because I have been getting interested in shooting a little bit more long range, at least out here in Tennessee, we have so many of the micro terrain hills and valleys. Also, there's a lot of fallen trees out here. So if you need to get your rifle up a little bit, having a tripod so that you can get a steady, stable shooting position. Additionally, if I had to, I could make a hasty shelter to some degree, wrap a poncho around this and set this up above me, and I could have something to hide under if it was just pouring down rain in a moment's notice. All right, and then strapped to the bottom here, same mindset as Drew. Having those air mattresses are great, but if it's not that cold, it can be a little bit of a pain to fill it up with air and compress it down with air if you're gonna be moving a whole bunch, on top of the fact that I can sit on this if I have to. Now, I'm an adult-sized human being, so I didn't have to cut mine down at all. In fact, I'm so much bigger than Drew that if you still have any of your parts left over from when you cut it, I could probably use it. Drew said that I could do something with the extra pieces that he cut that we're probably not allowed to say on YouTube. So anyway, a good foam sleeping pad means that obviously you just throw it out and get on it and sleep, or sit down and rest, and you don't have to fill it up with air at all. Also, there's sticks like this everywhere, not only ones that we have cut, but that's not gonna pop anything, it's not gonna hurt anything, so I have the added benefit of not having to carry a patch kit if it does break. All right, let's get into the main compartment. Now, when I first started coming out with Mitch and Drew and Nick and doing a little bit more camping, I packed everything in the kitchen sink, and I have learned how to do more with less. So some multi-tools of sorts, or things that can be used in an array of different ways. So some scrim like this could do the same thing, or if I have to, in theory, make my own blanket to stay warm, I could. I also could just wrap this around my neck, keep me a little bit warmer. I could throw this over my rifle. This is, again, just a multi-tool in many different ways. A dry bag. I have a balaclava waffle net so that I can stay a little bit warmer. I have socks and underwear as well. It wasn't supposed to rain, so I wasn't worried about bringing an extra top or pants or anything like that. Night vision. If I'm gonna be out here in the dark in the woods, you gotta bring your nods if you have them. Oh, and speaking of night vision, Steel Industries is a sponsor of our channel, but we've also been customers of theirs since long before DC was ever running. And Steel Industries not only makes some of the best night vision out there, they do have their own housing and units, They also resell other brands that make really high-end stuff. But the reason that we seem to love Steel Industries the most is that Steel Industries also has the best customer service in the night vision game. What you don't want to do is get night vision, bring it home, have something go wrong, have questions, and not be able to get an answer from anyone. On top of the fact that they actually have a brick and mortar location in Central Florida where you can go and test out night vision and ask questions before you ever walk out of their facility. So, link is in the description. Go check out Steel Industries for night vision. A poncho, which I don't think we're gonna need at all, but having some form of moisture protection is really nice. And in fact, inside of our shelter, which we'll show you here in a few minutes, if we had to string this up on the inside, it doesn't even have to be on the outside. We could do that too. My sleeping bag, the outside of the sleeping bag, I have my bivvy. So it's all stored inside of this one compression sack with my sleeping bag. And when I pull this out, the sleeping bag and all the insulation is already protected from moisture, being that it is stored inside of the bivvy, all zipped up as well. So I have that Gore-Tex protecting everything already. I as well have a Grail water filtration system. I would rather use this as opposed to be using the tablets from my Cane of Provisions water decon kits. Drew brought a lot of water. As it turns out, I know where the water is here and it's not far at all. I didn't want to have to carry gallons of water. I didn't even tell you that, sorry about that. But because I can filter this, I also have another Nalgene on top up here, and no one's shooting at us. So if I had to, I could take this, filter water, compress it down, pour it in there, filter water, compress it down, pour it in there, top this guy off, and I don't want to have to carry gallons of water if I don't have to. So this would be my primary form of carrying water and filtering water, at least for this outing. Before you go to bed, if it is cold, it's nice to heat up some water, on top of the fact that if you're going to be making some food, whether it's from My Patriot Supply or you actually have an MRE and you're trying to re-warm or something like that, having a jet boil is really nice. I have learned that I prefer MSR pocket rockets like Drew had. It just saves so much space, and I can use the same titanium cup. I don't have to carry and lug this whole thing around, but it's what I have, and one day I'll spend like the, what, $20 to get the MSR pocket rocket. So this with the food, that's really all that I'm carrying for a couple days out in the woods. It's way less than what I was bringing before because I've learned how to be comfortable doing more of these things. And really I've learned that from Mitch taking his classes a couple of times. So if you're interested in not just watching a YouTube video, don't take it from us. Go to someone who is a pro and sign up for some of those classes. But let's take a look at the shelter, what we did and how we would actually set up to sleep in there.
So you probably noticed there was a lot of crossover between my pack and Josh's loadouts, and that's okay. In fact, one of the biggest reasons why it's a good idea to come out and do this kind of stuff is you find gaps in things that you've left out or that you left back at home and that your buddy has, and you find ways to do things better. It highlights all those little mistakes that you make on a weekly basis when you're tinkering with your gear and fixing stuff. We have built a similar A-frame shelter in the past. When we came out here, we looked for, hey, let's set something up so that we can stay out here for a couple nights. We don't have to worry about our ponchos or anything like that. And so we started off with, we actually chopped down a really nice tree. Not a really nice tree, it's just a tree, one of the billion out here, to be our ridge pole. And we used wraps and fraps to hold it nice and steady. And Josh even hopped on it, and I thought for sure he was gonna either fall or break it. And well, I was wrong once again. Beyond that, we pretty much just picked up a bunch of dead limbs around here and chopped down a few extra and added the sides onto this. And then we just used the pine needles and leaves, which are great in Tennessee around this time of the year, especially in this spot, because they kind of mat to the earth with a layer of mud, and that kind of acts like mortar on all this stuff. So kind of like bricklaying, except you're just laying little globs of leaves and twigs and stuff like that. And so, believe it or not, this is actually very effective even in rain. Now, if it comes in absolute torrential downpour, we're going to get a little leakage. We can always throw ponchos up on the interior to combat that, but I've slept out and stuff like this before in the rain, and believe it or not, it's not bad. One thing to note though, the first time that you set something like this up, like the first 6 hours, it's best to set something like this up in the early day so that the bugs have time to crawl out. I know immediately after setting this up, I was sitting in there cooking up some food, and I just see spiders start descending because they all want to get on the ground, which is where we essentially picked them up from and threw them on here. So if you're kind of averse to critters, let it sit for a couple hours and most of them clear out. Now, you don't have to clear out brush. In fact, it actually acts as a pretty decent insulator if you're, laying on the ground, but we went ahead and cleared it all out just to get as many bugs and stuff out of here. And we also used the brush that was in here to go on the top, so we didn't have to pull from outside of the campsite. But we did end up making a little notch here out of this dead tree so that the limbs would slide perfectly in there, and they're pretty sturdy and stuff. And another thing when you set this up is to go through, hit it, make sure nothing's gonna fall on you, and yeah, you're good. And this is gonna be an awesome place to sleep for the night. Sight lines. This is not a tactical scenario. We're not being shot at. We're not worried about being hunted. I mean, no matter how well we camouflage this, any normal person walking through the woods, if they walk past this, would see that it's a shelter, right? Like, it's not a hide site. That being said, we do have an awesome sight line out of here, especially setting up a pack with a rifle looking out that way, looking over here, and even out facing the opposite direction you guys are looking. We can see pretty well, especially with thermal. Now, this site could actually fit probably 4 people comfortably, and we actually probably keep each other warm and all. But one final thing to do is to go through and use like a saw tool, or just use like a multi-tool, and chop off all the little limbs, because one of the worst things is whenever you're in one of these is you start to sit up and you get raked across the face with a limb that's poking down. So just clean it up. Quality of life improvements, that kind of thing. They do them to video games. You should do them to your shelter. And as a final note, always make it, especially if you're not worried about a tactical scenario, to where you can sit with your head clear, not bumping into anything, and it's just a nice, comfortable, awesome place to bed down for the night.
All right, let's wrap this up talking a little bit about LARPing and that whole term. We're gonna hit on this more throughout the year, but let's begin with stating what it is that the guys at the tip of the spear, the best of the best in the US military at least, what they do when they are planning to go off on a specific mission. So first of all, they have all of their baseline from infantry or whatever else that they had to do in order to be prepared. They had to understand how to walk in formation, how to do all those things at night, how to land nav. Well, all those things are still just LARPing. You're still practicing one small piece of knowledge that you need to have in order to put all those parts together. So then you go out and you go deploy. And then someone who's in charge of all of these guys says, hey, I have a goal. I have a commander's intent, and they relay what that is down to their subordinate to some degree. I want to defend this hilltop. I want to go hit that house. And then the guy who is the subordinate down below takes that commander's intent and relays it to his guys. Now, let's say that you have CAG, Delta, SEALs, whoever that is. They all do it a little bit differently, but essentially they break off into groups and they come up with, here's what I would do if I was gonna go hit this house with 12 or 30 or 100 guys. Here's my goal. Here's how we would do that. Someone else brings in their idea and he says, yeah, but I wanna do it this way as well. Then they all come back together and they say, hey, I like this part of this idea. I like this part of this idea. Now you have your mission. And then they come up with, whether it's on a sand table or maybe it's just dirt and rocks, they come up with, cool, here's all the moving pieces on our chessboard. And then finally they go LARP. They do a rehearsal. For some, they call it a FMP, full mission profile. And they are all kitted up and they go run that exact same mission over and over and over and over with all the LARPing they did before, so that they understand their CQB or how to, run a defense of a hilltop. But they are practicing it on that hilltop over and over. They're asking about what is the enemy's most likely course of action? What is the enemy's most deadly course of action? They're integrating that. Now they're practicing, and the entire time they're LARPing in their gear in order to get better before they actually go do it for real. So LARPing on a professional level is literally what separates the professionals from someone who only has a base level of training. If anyone would tell you, hey, don't worry about LARPing, just don't do it. Don't listen to that guy. Get in your gear, go train in it, and become more capable, more deadly in the stuff that you own. Now with that, guys, thank you very much for watching. Thank you especially to Patreon for sponsoring us and watching our content. They have first access to our content. It is ad-free, and they also have first access to us. We respond to their DMs faster than we get to anyone else. If you guys want to support us, we do have some hats and merch on our website. some Cane of Provisions stuff, as well as some agonic belts and things like that. So go check that out. With that, guys, thank you very much. Make sure you go LARP. I don't know what to do with my hands.